In this presentation, we look at cost element master data. Let's look at cost elements and their cost element categories. Primary cost elements are created for example revenue and expense GL accounts. Your primary cost element for revenue accounts are categorized under the cost element category number 11. For expense accounts, the cost element category is number 1. For certain sales deduction accounts, you can use cost element category number 12. But most commonly, you use 11 and 1 for your revenue and expense accounts. Secondary cost elements are used for allocations and settlements. For example, when you're using cost center assessment, you use cost element category number 42. For internal activity allocation, you use cost element category number 43. You must remember that all cost elements are created as GL accounts. So when you create your GL accounts, if it's going to be a cost element, you can specify under one of those tabs that this is the cost element category. Using that cost element category, system will know what type of cost element it is. Now, before we can start creating the cost element groups or the general ledger accounts, we need to configure the GL account groups first. Let's do that configuration. We come to the SAP S4HANA configuration menu path, go to financial accounting, general ledger accounting, master data, GL accounts, preparations, and you can see there are a few options over here. We have already created a chart of accounts called M000. Then let's check whether we have assigned our company code to the chart of accounts first. And let's go to our company code which we created M001. You can see there it's been assigned to M000 chart of accounts, so that's all good. Next step is to define the account group. What this account group does is it gives a number range. Let's say, for example, 1000 to 2000. So you can create your GL account within that number range. So you need to assign the number ranges as well as there's something called field status groups. We will look into that in more detail now. So select define account group and we need to create our entries. So let's select new entries, put our chart of accounts M000 and account group. So I'm going to create 5 account groups. This is very much related to financial accounting configurations. So one account group, I'm going to call it as assets. So I'm going to call it as assets over here. And then I need to specify a number range. So I'm going to specify 1 and 5 zeros to 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 1 and 4 nines. So I can only create asset accounts within this number range group. And this character, now here I put here 6 digits, should be the one which you have configured in your chart of accounts for the length of your GL accounts. Then I'm going to create another account group. So I have one created for assets. Now I'm going to create one for liabilities. Just going to create 5 basic account groups to make it simple. And 2 nines. Next one, I'm going to create M000. I'm going to call it this as equity. Give a number range for that. And then come on to create 2 more. This I'm going to call it as revenues. 4 series. Just keeping this simple. Have 5 account groups starting from 1 to 1, 2 to 2, 3 to 3, 4 to 4, and 5 to 5. And the last one, I'm going to call it as expenses. And 5 and 5 series. So I have just used these series. So I have got all this information, revenues, expenses, equity, liabilities, assets. I'm going to create one more account group over here. This is for allocation of costs from, let's say, for example, you have your admin cost centers. You want to allocate those costs maybe to your actual production line cost centers, maybe like product A, product B, or maybe even engineering and some specific departments, whatever you have. So I'm just going to create one more account group and I'm going to call it as ALLC, call allocation. And let me use a number which is not from this range. And I'm just going to specify that also here. Okay, so I've created altogether 5 basic account groups for my balance sheet and P&L expenses, and then I have created one for allocation. So I've created a total of 6 account groups. Now we can save the transaction. There are some other settings that we need to do in financial accounting configs before we can proceed further, and that is to assign the field status variant to the company code. So for that, you come to your SPRO menu path, Financial Accounting Global Settings, Ledgers, Fields, and then we come to Assign Company Code to Field Status Variants. You can use one of the existing standard field status variants provided in the system. So let's go to our company code over here. M001 is the one I configured, and I'm going to specify field status variant. You can see there are already many options available in the system. I'm just going to simply use 1000, which is a standard one provided by SAP, and save the transaction. There is one more configuration which we need to do, that is to define the retained earnings account. The retained earnings account will be a GL account where the balances of your income statement, that is your revenue minus expenses, will be flowing to the retained earnings account. This will be a balance sheet account. So whatever you have the balance of your income statement or your P&L statement will flow towards the retained earnings account after the fiscal year end. So let's define the retained earnings account. Specify your chart of accounts. P&L statement, this is a free text. You can configure or you can just give a name for your P&L statement. I'm just going to keep it simple. Call it as M1. And you need to specify account. This will be a balance sheet account. Retained earnings account usually are under the equity section. My equity account starts with a 3. It's a 6-digit GL account, so I'm going to specify something like this: 3999 and 2 zeros. And just giving a warning message only, saying that this account has not been created because I've still not created this account, but it's okay. You can just specify that over here and save the transaction. And just press enter in your keyboard to bypass that message. Now let's look at setting up the GL accounts. So to create the cost elements, we need to create the GL accounts. You can do a couple of options. One is to go via the SAP menu path, or you can go via the Fiori tile. Let's look at creating via the SAP menu path. Come to Accounting, Financial Accounting, General Ledger, Account. In this case, it's under Master Records. So just go to Master Records, GL Accounts, Individual Processing, Centrally. FS00 is a transaction code. Let's select that. Specify a GL account and company code. Now I'm going to create an expense account. My expense account starts with a 5. I'm just going to simply give a 6-digit number over here. 501001. Company code M001. And I'm going to select this icon, create. Now I need to give the further settings. What is the GL account type? It's going to be a primary cost because I'm going to create an expense, something like a stationary expense. So I'm going to call it as a primary cost. If it's a secondary cost, you select this. If it's a balance sheet account, you select this. And if it's a non-operating expense or income, you select this option. Primarily, you can use P, S, and X. Not many of times you'll use N, but sometimes if you have some other specific expense type, you can use this as well. This just simply to identify the GL account type categories. So I'm going to specify primary cost or revenue. Another option is sometimes when you select N, you might not have to specify a cost element. In this section, especially our controlling module, most of the time we'll be using P and S. So I'm going to select primary cost or revenue. Account group, I'm using this as an expense account group. You will see those 6 account groups I have configured is coming up over here. I'm going to select expenses. Short text, just going to call it as stationary expense. Stationary expenses. Call it like that. We just scroll further down. I'm not going to specify any trading partner. Let's go to the next tab, control data. Account currency, I'm going to keep it in AUD. Not going to need to specify any of these settings over here. Sort key, I'm just going to specify 001 for now. It's a standard one. Just going to put the posting date. This sort key will populate the assignment field whenever we have the line items specified. Now you can see cost element category. This has become a mandatory field. Now it is going to be a primary expense. So I'm going to use the cost element category 01. You can see that comes up over here. All possible cost element categories under primary expenses will be displayed over here. For expense, I'm going to use 01. Let's look at the next option, create bank interest. Now here you have something called a field status group. You can use one of the standard ones provided in the system. This is an expense account. So I can either use cost accounts over here or I can look for any other different type of expense accounts which will be feasible. I can see that it is already a cost accounts option is here. Let me just simply use that. You can also create your own field status group and assign the specific fields as well. I'm not going to specify any other settings over here. And I'm going to go to further tabs also, not relevant for us at the moment. So simply going to select save. And you get a message saying data saved. So like this, practice creating a few more GL accounts. I've already created one for expense for stationery. I will create another one for another type of expense. Now let's create one more GL account for an expense and we'll create a cost element group and put those two accounts into that group. This time I'm just going to directly type in the transaction code FS00 over here. And I'm just going to change this one into a 2. And I'm going to say, see, I'm getting message saying does not exist because I'm just going to create it new. Select this icon to create. It's going to be a primary cost again. Account group, it's going to be an expense. Type of expense, I'm just going to call it as internet expense. And type it in over here. Expense. Go to control data tab. Currency is good, all good. Open item is all good. Cost element category, I'm going to put directly 01. Going a bit more faster here because they've already gone through in detail in the previous video. Field status group, I'm just going to use the same one. That's a cost account group G004 and save the transaction. Now I have created two GL accounts. Now what we'll do is we'll create a cost element group, and in that cost element group I will insert those two GL accounts which I've just created now. So I'm just going to go to accounting over here and I need to create a cost element group. So we'll go under the section called controlling. Under controlling we go to cost element accounting, and then after that we go to master data and go to cost element group. And if we expand that, you can see there's a transaction code called KAH1, which is to create a cost element group. Just going to double click that. And then I need to specify a cost element group ID. So I'm going to give it an ID. For example, let's keep it simple like CEG01. Just give an ID like that and just press enter in your keyboard, or you can click on this icon. It comes to the screen. And here I can give the detailed description of this cost element group. I'm just going to call this as admin group. Let's keep it simple. Maybe I'll call it as admin CE group, CE for cost element group. And underneath that, I will insert the two GL accounts which I just created now. So I'm just going to insert, you can at the same time, you can insert many GL accounts by just simply clicking on this button over here, insert cost element. You can either give a range or you can individually insert. Now I'm just going to individually insert over here. The two accounts I created were 501001. You press enter, automatically the description also comes. That means you know that you have entered the right GL account. Next one I'm going to enter is the 501002 internet expense. So these two GL accounts we just created are now under this admin cost element group. And I'm just going to save the transaction. Now I will create a secondary cost element. This time I'm going to go directly to the GL account screen itself. And I'm going to create my secondary cost element. These will be used for allocation. There are many different types of secondary cost elements. The one I'm going to show you now is to create a allocation cost element. We will come further up in our video presentations regarding what is allocation, what are the different type of allocation, and so on. For now, I'm just simply going to create a GL account for allocation. I'm going to start with this 8 series because that's the account I have set up to start with the 8 series for allocation related GL accounts. So I'm going to call this 8 9 1 2 3 1 8 9 0 0 0 1. My company code will remain the same, M001. Just going to simply select this option now. GL account type, I'm going to choose the secondary costs. These expenses will not be part of my income statement. These will be used to allocate costs from, for example, from one cost center to another cost center. Account group, I'm going to choose this option, allocation account group. That's where my 8 series is coming under. Short text, what type of allocation? I'm just going to call it for now admin expense allocation. I can give a more detailed description over here. Admin expense allocation. Control data, just go down to the end, and under cost element category, I'm going to select number 42, assessment. And here field status group. Now here I just want to keep it generic because I do not want to have a mandatory cost accounting or anything. I'll just keep it for now, the general field status group. Later we can come and change this when required. I'm simply going to save the transaction. Now let's look at creating a GL account via the Fiori app. Now under the Fiori app section, you can go to you can go to the tile which says manage GL account master data. If you don't see that in your option, you can come to your app finder over here and you can just select app finder icon over there, or you can just search in the catalog. I'm just going to go into the app finder option over here and you can see the master GL account was already there, but imagine if you don't have it, then you can just type it in G/L account and you should get all the tiles related to your GL account. So I'm going to use the tile manage GL account master data. And through this, you can create your cost elements. So I'm going to see all the GL accounts already created inside my chart of accounts. I'm going to put that over here. I can have already created a few GL accounts over here. And I'm just going to go and create a new one. So I'm going to select this option, click on this, and I will create my new GL account. So I'm going to go through this quicker now. 501003, going to create an expense account over there. Chart of accounts, I'm going to type it in M000. Account type, it's going to be a primary cost. Account group, I'm going to select expenses. That was my account group over here. Short text, electricity expense. Long text, electricity expense. I'm going to select this and scroll down, and company code data. Just going to select this icon over here and enter my company code details. It should just come to another screen over there. My company code I'm going to use is M001. So you can already see the screen and the layout is slightly different to the SAP Easy Access menu path, which we use FS00 to create the GL account. Account currency AUD should automatically pop up. Sort key, I'm just going to type it in 001, posting date. And then I'm going to put the field status group G004. This is my cost account group over there. Because I've already created this via the SAP Easy Access menu and I know which are the information to put, I'm just directly typing it over here, so it'll be much faster. Of course, you can always select this and look at the drop down menu and choose the option as well. And that should be there. Then I'm just going to go to the control and just press OK, and it should pop up to your that is controlling area section over here, because I need to enter the cost element category, which is just going to expand this because it's hidden over here. We're just going to expand that over there. There it is, the cost element category will come. I know my cost element category is going to be 01 because it's a primary expense. I'm going to put that in. And I think that should be okay for now. Let's try to save it and see if any error message is coming up. Okay, account has been successfully saved. And you can see 501003, all the information has been come up well. Now practice creating some primary cost elements by creating your GL accounts. Also create a few secondary cost elements as well. Then create a cost element group. Using a cost element group, you can combine one or more cost elements. These cost elements group will be very useful for reporting as well as time of allocation and assessments. We will come to that later in our presentations.